Senator Disick.
Mr. President, I move that further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with and the Sergeant at Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
On that motion, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Members, if you would be so kind as to stand. Today's chaplain is Reverend Denise Dunbar Perkins. She's a retired pastor of the Presbytery of the Twin Cities area. And following the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Gentle, patient one of the universe, as the senators gather today to continue making profound and long-lasting decisions for our community, please send your spirit of unity upon these dedicated, elected servants to encourage them in their official tasks. Be with them and with all of their support staff to do this important work of the government. Assure them that whatever their responsibilities, you provide the grace to enable them to be faithful to their duties and the awareness to be conscious of their obligations, fulfilling all of those with integrity. Remind them and all of us of the dignity of this work so that they may use their talents and abilities in ways that are honorable and just and for the benefit of those they serve. May they use their only best skills and judgment with clear insight, carry out their deliberations with wisdom and compassion, and their work with clarity and accuracy, holding themselves to be impartial but caring as they consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before them, and that they always act in accordance to what is best and equitable for all of the citizens of this great state of Minnesota. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, members, for the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. The Secretary will take the roll.
Abler, Anderson, Barr, Bolden, Carlson, Champion, Coleman, Swedzinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Drazkowski, Duckworth, Diedzik, Eichhorn, Farnsworth, Fateh, Frentz, Green, Grunhagen, Gustafson, Hochschild, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Jasinski, Johnson, Klein, Karan, Kroon, Kanesh, Kopek, Lang, Latz, Liskey, Limmer, Lucero, Mann, Marty, Matthews, McQuaid, McEwen, Miller, Mitchell, Mohammed, Morrison, Murphy, Nelson, Umuverbaten, Pappas, Pa, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rasmussen, Rest, Seeberger, Utke, Weber, Wiesenberg, Westland, Westrom, Wicklund, Zhang.
Members, a quorum is present. Members, as usual, I am going to go through the orders today. You can follow along looking at the Senate agenda, which is the 15th day, Monday, January 30th. I'm starting at the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the messages.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following House files, herewith transmitted. House File numbers 7 and 35. Signed, Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Members, remember that no action is required. I'm now going to the fourth order of business, first reading of House bills. The House files have been given their first reading and referred as indicated. Members, I'm now at the fifth order of business, report of committees. Senator Disick for a motion to adopt the committee reports.
Mr. President, I move that the committee reports printed in the agenda be adopted, and I ask for a roll call vote.
Roll call vote has been requested, and a roll call vote has been granted. Any discussion? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll. Members, just so you know, this is on the adoption of the committee reports. The board has call of the Senate. We just want to make sure that you understand where we are on the agenda. We are on the 5th order of business. Please vote, members. Not going to vote. All those having voted that desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There have been 43 ayes and 15 noes. The motion is adopted, or prevails, I should say. We are now moving to the 6th order of business, second reading of Senate bills. The Secretary will read the Senate file numbers.
Senate File Number 516.
The Senate file has been given its second reading. Members, we are now at the 8th order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate bills. The bills listed on today's introduction calendars are given their first reading and referred as indicated with the following changes. Members, if you want to follow along, you can go to page number 5. If you go to page number 5, you'll see that that Senate file number 945 has been referred to the Committee on Elections. And finally, you can also go to page number 6. Senate file number 955 has been referred to the Committee on State and Local Governments and Veterans. And also Senate file number 959, that bill has been referred to Jobs and Economic Development. As I mentioned, members, the bills listed on today's introduction calendar are given their first reading and referred as indicated. We're on the 9th order of business, members. That is motion and resolutions. We will adopt the author's motions as one motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senator Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate File 12 be withdrawn from the Committee on Taxes, given a second reading, and placed on general orders.
Members, Senator Miller moved that Senate File number 12 be withdrawn from the Committee on Taxes and given a second reading and placed on general orders. This is pursuant to Rule 5.1. To that motion, Senator Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to request a roll call vote. Mr.
A roll
President,
call has been requested and a roll call has been granted. Senator Miller.
what Senate File 12 would do is it would provide the full elimination of state income taxes on Social Security benefits here in the state of Minnesota. My understanding is the state of Minnesota is now one of only 11 states that still taxes Social Security benefits. This proposal was included in last year's conference committee report that did not get across the finish line. This proposal did pass the Minnesota Senate with bipartisan support last year, but with that said, I understand it's a new legislative session. We did have a hearing on last year's conference committee report in the Senate Tax Committee this year. There have been multiple bills, either identical or very similar to Senate File 12, that have been introduced this session with bipartisan support. One of those bills did have a hearing in the Senate Taxes Committee, so the bill has been fully vetted. The state of Minnesota has a huge, massive budget surplus of over $18 billion, and I think now is the time to provide our seniors across the state of Minnesota with this much-deserved relief. So I ask that we give this bill its second reading so we can take it up and get this passed for seniors here in the state of Minnesota.
Senator Ress.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would urge members to vote no, and I'm assuming that a roll call has been requested.
That is correct. A roll call has been requested and granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. This particular bill, number one, has no House companion. There are a lot of people and a lot of members who are interested in dealing with the way in which Social Security is taxed in the state of Minnesota. We are being very deliberate about getting all the facts to our members. We had one hearing explaining the bill, and then another hearing for on a different bill, Senator Housechild's bill, or Senator Putnam's bill, which does have a House companion. And we're going to have other hearings on Social Security taxation. We do not need to rush to judgment today by bringing a bill that has no House companion to the floor. And we'll deal with it in a responsible way later. I'm on bills that, like Senator Putnam's, that does call for 100% elimination of the Social Security tax, and I ask the body's indulgence that the tax committee can be allowed to continue its work as we develop the omnibus bill. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
A roll call has been requested and a roll call has been granted. Senator Duckworth, to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the motion, I want to highlight the urgency at which this bill should be brought to the floor for the very specific reason that there are several Minnesotans, specifically our seniors, that have been asking for and could benefit drastically from this relief. Senate Democrats and Democrats in the other chamber have demonstrated just how quickly they can move bills through committee, get them to the floor, and get them voted on.
Senator Duckworth, this is to the motion, please.
Yes, it is, Mr. President. And so by Senator Miller bringing this bill up today and trying to move it with the same amount of quickness is extremely important. There are certain pieces of legislation that we brought here very fast that maybe didn't have the level of bipartisan support that this specific bill does. And when are we going to move quickly for those seniors that we're here to represent as well, when it comes to providing them the kind of relief that they've been promised year after year after year? So, Mr. President, that's where I'm coming from when I speak on behalf of this bill and the urgency as to why it's being brought forward today. Thank you.
Senator Lucero, to the motion to withdraw and place on general orders. Remember, this has to be very narrow. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. And every comment that I'm going to make in regards to this is to this motion. So sometimes I may not mention the motion for a 60-second, 2-minute period, but I'm going to give a series of communications that I've had with my constituents from my district in my attempt, Mr. President, to persuade you and the body why this is an urgent matter and to vote for it. And I'm prefacing it with those comments because I don't want to be potentially interpreted as straying from the motion before us with my remarks. So, Mr. President, we know and we've seen that this body can move with urgency. We've seen this in committees, as Senator Duckworth has just mentioned. We've seen that in the other body, and This body, Mr. President, should hold up full elimination of the Social Security tax on our seniors with equal urgency. Our senior citizens, many are on fixed incomes and have experienced the pain of inflation in the Walz-Biden economy over the last several years. And this cost increase on multiple areas of their life can have relief today from those of us in this body if, on one condition, if there is an urgency by the members in this body to bring relief to those on fixed incomes. Now, over the last several months, last year, as I was door knocking, attending various pancake breakfast, chicken dinner, pork chop dinner events, meeting my constituents, including the new areas of the redistricting, this was among the top 3 issues I heard over and over and over again. Then, Representative Lucero, what are you going to do to bring relief to us in Social Security taxes? And I said, when I get down to St. Paul, after my election to the Senate, it is going to be among my top priorities to do that. Now, Mr. President, just this past weekend, when we left here early Saturday morning, I had several town halls scheduled with my corresponding House members, and I attended those town halls. One of them was in Albertville, and the second was in Elk River. And this topic came up at both of those town halls by members of my great communities asking, Senator Lucero, when can we see relief on the Social Security? We are one of only approximately 11 states across the country that still tax Social Security. So the motion by Senator Miller to bring this to the floor now, allowing us to take action on this right now, is absolutely something we should vote for. Now, I've been around this institution, and I'm speaking of the legislature, long enough to know when I hear chairs of committees offering comments to the effect, let's slow down, let's have more conversation, let's allow a thorough bill process, let's allow for more vetting, those are just means to not take action right now. And again, we have seen that this body, if it has an interest, can take action expeditiously. So we need to lift up our seniors and those on fixed incomes, and we need to vote in favor of the Miller Amendment so we can bring tax relief to those Minnesotans. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Gruenhagen, to the motion to withdraw and place on general orders pursuant to Rule 5.1.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. The other reason I wanted to just check if my mic was working because it wasn't working last on Friday and Saturday morning. But anyway, it evidently is now. Yeah, I would speak in favor of this motion too. You know, a couple of additional things to keep in mind. Number one, people already paid this in as a tax on their earned income during their lifetime. You know, so, I mean, to a certain degree, it's almost like a double taxation.
So, Senator, that's the underlining issue of the bill. This is only to the motion to withdraw.
Okay. The other thing I would just add to it, you know, during the election season, I talked to independents, Democrats, and also Republicans, and they all were in favor of repealing a tax on Social Security. I did not hear one person during the campaign from either side of the aisle or independent or whatever that favored keeping this tax in place. So I would strongly urge a green vote, and let's send a message that we can have probably 95% popularity with the people in the state of Minnesota. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Nelson, to the issue of the motion to withdraw and place Senate File 12 on general orders.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this motion. This is an urgency, members, and let us be clear. Fully eliminating forever the double taxation on Social Security benefits, it's urgent and it has been well addressed. It was totally agreed upon in the bipartisan tax conference committee of 2022. And in fact, members, we have many, obviously, Republicans who have been supporting this, but on the campaign trail, at least 4 of the Democrat senators in this building stood in favor of fully eliminating the taxation on Social Security. And Mr. President and members, it is urgent. Inflation has been soaring. I encourage a yes vote on this amendment so we may act on permanently removing the double taxation on Social Security today.
Senator Pratt, to the motion to withdraw, place Senate File 12 on general orders.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Members, we have Minnesotans across the state getting ready to prepare their taxes or are preparing their tax returns for last year. And our seniors, when they're looking at their tax bills, are making a decision whether or not to stay in this state or move someplace else with a more favorable tax climate for retired people. Kiplingers and others have consistently reported Minnesota is one of the worst places to retire. And Mr. President, if we do not move this bill to the floor immediately, we are going to continue to lose our retired people who bring a tremendous amount of wisdom to this state, along with all of their taxable assets, which will only hurt the tax collections going forward in the future. Mr. President, this is an urgent bill because the decisions being made are being made today, and we as a legislature need to make that decision today.
Senator Hochschild, to the motion to withdraw and place Senate File 12 on general orders.
Thank you, Mr. President, and apologies, I'm losing my voice a little bit. This is one of my top priorities. I think everybody is aware of that, and there are several of my colleagues, and I'm proud to hear that across the aisle, this is an issue that a lot of us agree on. I'm also really happy to hear that in the tax committee, which I serve as a member, we heard Senator Putnam's bill, which I'm a co-author on, and I believe some Republicans are co-authors on that bill as well, to eliminate this tax on Social Security. I live in one of the largest districts in the state, one of the prettiest districts in the state, but also one of the oldest districts in the state. I'm acutely aware of how important this issue is for our seniors, which is why it was one of the top issues that I ran on. We need to do our due diligence on this issue. We had a hearing on this in the tax committee, and we're prioritizing it as a key piece of legislation. And I look forward to working across the aisle on this issue as we continue. I will say that the bill that has been introduced will also include public pensions for our police and some of our public service members. So we need to be thoughtful about this so that we're including those that need to be included rather than haphazardly introducing it on the floor. So let's get this done. We'll work together. We know that a deal was made last session that was part of this Social Security tax issue. And that bill was unfortunately not acted upon as judiciously as my colleagues across the aisle are implying it needs to be addressed right now. So let's do our due diligence. Let's work on this issue, and we'll work together to get something done on this issue. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Senator Howell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, is it all right if I ask a question of the author of the motion?
It is my understanding that it's only limited to the procedural question, so not the underlining issues. So he's already made his arguments as it pertains to why it should move from the tax committee onto the floor. So I just ask for you to speak to the motion now. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would say that in light of the importance of making this motion and bringing this to the floor, is just take a look at the temperatures outside. We need to give seniors some reason to stay, because with the weather outside, there is absolutely no reason to stay right now. Their Social Security benefits are getting taxed again, and we're, generally speaking, below zero temperatures. This would assist in keeping our senior members that continue to have to pay Social Security. One of 11 members, one of 11. It's not good to be in the top 5 taxes, and it's not good to be one of 11 that taxes Social Security. It's of utmost importance to keep our seniors here, to bring this motion forward and move this bill as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Limmer. To the issue, motion to withdraw and place Senate File 12 on general orders.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, a question for you. Under parliamentary procedure, this motion requires, I believe, a simple majority?
That is correct. Just a simple, well, 34.
34.
It requires 34. After deadlines, it would have required, if my memory serves me correctly, 41 votes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to speak to the motion. Thank you
Senator Limmer,
for that.
to the motion.
This is an issue that is not new to our legislative Senate chamber. It's been discussed for quite a few years in the legislative process. Most of us understand it, but more importantly, the public understands this, and it's even more understood in light of a $18 billion surplus. We are collecting, whether we have different opinion of how that money is collected, we are collecting more money that's necessary to run our established budget. This particular motion is well understood. It's a relatively simple bill. It doesn't take a lot of complexity. And at least in my district, it's one of the most called upon issues of the public on both sides of the aisle. People want this changed, definitely want it changed. Quite honestly, I think the time is now for that, and we can take care of this, put it behind us, and we can move further into the more complex issues of our session. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Jaskowski, to the motion to withdraw and place Senate File 12 on general orders. To that motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members, we have before us here a motion to raise the priority of a bill that has been introduced in the Minnesota Senate. It was introduced very early in the session, and while it has received hearings in committee, it was laid over in committee. So that means at this point, Mr. President, that bill is not moving towards the Senate floor. It is stuck and holed up in committee right now, and we have no idea what the disposition of that bill in committee is going to be. We can hope, we can pray, we can work towards it out of committee, but the reality is it's stuck there for now. And it could be the end of session before it comes out. It could maybe never come out of committee. We don't know what is going to happen. At the same time, Mr. President, as we look at the continuum of bills that are before the Senate and the priority, as we set, Mr. President, this sets out the priority of our workflow here, and that's what we're talking. Is that what the debate is about, Mr. President? I think it's about the priority. And so, as we look at all of the bills that are before us, including the one that just passed on Saturday, House File or Senate File 1 is a priority. Senator, it was passed here before our chamber.
Senator, I just want to remind you, as I've reminded the others, that the motion before us is the motion to withdraw. And I'd like for us to stick to the matter that's before the body. If you'd be so kind.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm being so kind. As a matter of fact, Senator Miller's motion is to make a priority of the bill to relieve the hardworking Minnesotans, the senior citizens of Minnesota, from the unbelievable burden of the state income tax being placed on their Social Security payments. And that's what this motion is about. Is this a priority for Minnesota or not? That's what we're here to decide today. And as we look at the flow of bills, Mr. President, this is a perfect argument in that, do we indeed make this bill, Senator Miller's bill, a priority to bring it out of committee before the floor of the Senate here today or not? That is what the motion is. And the question is, as we look at all the rest of the continuum of bills, Where are our priorities? Is this one that we're going to bring it out of committee to demonstrate to Minnesota that it is a priority or not? That is the question before us. We had a bill on Saturday that was apparently a priority. That was one to make abortion unlimited in the state. We've got other bills coming forward that will give driver's licenses to illegal immigrants.
Senator,
Mr. President.
I'm going to ask again, and I think I've been quite patient. Please make and confine your comments to the issue that's before us, not other bills. This is about the motion to withdraw and place it on general orders. When you're talking about taxes and whether it relieves someone and that being something that we need to do immediately and around priorities, but when you get into specificity, that's where then we kind of run afoul. So to the motion, Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I don't know a better way for me to demonstrate and work to persuade my colleagues than to talk about the context of priority of this bill. That is everything that this motion is about. Mr. President, this motion would bring this bill to be the highest priority of this body at this moment. That's what the motion is. If I can't talk about the rest of the bills, Mr. President, in that context, I cannot adequately and persuasively demonstrate a priority. So, Mr. President, I think if you're going to lay those boundaries on me and say I can't invoke other bills and their names and what they're about in relation to this and the importance that senators and their constituents might have around those bills, I don't think that is what our rules and our custom and usage in this body are about. Because that's, in order to do that, I have to be able to talk about that, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm wondering if Senator Kupak would yield.
This is not the place for another senator to yield. I talked about that earlier today. This is a very confined procedural motion. It's around motion to withdraw and place Senate File 12 on general orders. And Senator, I think I've been pretty lenient around you talking about the priorities, but I don't think it requires specificity in order to get your point across because your point is well taken.
Mr. President, point of parliamentary inquiry.
Please state your purpose.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is, under this motion, is it in order for one member to ask another member to yield? Is that within the rules?
It's been the custom of this body not to require another person to yield at this place and space and under Rule 5.1.
Okay, so, Mr. President, and further following up on my question, so my question was not requiring another member to yield, but asking another member to yield. And the reason I'm asking is because I can very much see the very likely possibility that in order to persuade members of the body, another member would need to be asked to yield to glean information, et cetera. So that's why I'm wondering, is it within custom usage or the rules that request for another member to yield would be in order?
Senator, I've answered that question, and your point is not well taken. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, members, we have Senator Miller's motion here, and that is to make the bill to get rid of the undue burden on Minnesotans, on senior citizens, and the state tax that is placed on Social Security benefits. Members, we have people in Minnesota that are fleeing this state because of this oppressive burden. Members, if that's not persuasive to you to bring this forward now, I don't know what is. People are leaving this state. We just saw, Mr. President, 2 months ago, a report about the in and out migration in the state of Minnesota.
Mr.
What that
President.
yielded at our state.
Senator Friends, For what purpose do you rise? And state your purpose.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that you find Senator Drazkowski out of order. The comments regarding the merits of the bill, the comments regarding migration and out of the state are not to the point of the motion, and I ask you to hold this member and all members responsible, especially Mr. President, when they may have been reminded by the President multiple times. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. So I'm not going to rule on that point of order, but what I am going to ask the body to do is that Senator Miller has put forth what I believe to be an appropriate motion from his vantage point, which is for Senate File 12 to be withdrawn from taxes and moved to the floor. We've made it very clear as to the fact that this is a very specific motion under Rule 5.1. I believe that I've given as much latitude as the rules would allow, and that we are listening to you, Senator Drazkowski, but we ask that you confine, or I ask as president and the presiding officer, for you to confine your arguments around whether the body should remove Senate File 12 from taxes onto the floor. These ancillary things, I'm not quite sure if that's well, I can say it clearly. That goes outside of the bounds, but I'm not going to rule on that. I ask that you consider that, and again, I'm asking you to make sure that your comments are around the motion to withdraw Senate File 12 from general orders. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, members, we have the opportunity before us. We all ran an election over the last 8 months. Minnesotans told us overwhelmingly this is one of their very top priorities, the very top priorities, and it's stuck and holed up in committee right now. Senator Miller's motion would bring it before us today to demonstrate, members, if we want to demonstrate that this is a priority issue for Minnesota, you need to vote for this motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Seeing no further questions, the Secretary, Senator Miller being the last person because he is the author of the motion.
Roll call.
I'm sorry. Roll call has been requested and a roll call was already granted, and we do have Senator May Quaid who was on the list. Senator May Quaid.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the motion, there are 3 reasons why folks should vote no. Obviously, this is a very important topic. That's why there are no less than 10 bills related to this issue. Only one can move. One is moving. So there is already movement on this bill, so that's the first reason folks should vote no. The second is that the bill that is moving includes 48,000 Minnesotans that are not included in Senate File 12, including firefighters, police officers, and other public pension employees. And so for the sake of almost the entire population of the city I live in, we should not vote yes on Senate File 12 and continue to move Senate File 15 forward. And the third is that this isn't how we do budgets. Obviously, folks in this room know that. And so we don't need to make a big to-do about a bill that is moving through the normal process to exclude taxes on Social Security when that is already happening. And so I encourage folks to vote no because that is what's happening in the state Senate right now in the normal order. Thank you.
Senator Miller, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. There is one reason why everyone in this chamber should vote yes on this motion, and that is to provide senior citizens across the state of Minnesota much deserved tax relief. We've heard from members on both sides of the aisle in this chamber who have said that this is a priority for them to get this done. Now is the time to get it done, members. We have an opportunity to bring it up on the Senate floor today. We can provide seniors across the state much deserved tax relief today. And to the argument that this bill just focuses on Minnesotans who have paid into the Social Security and would eliminate the state income tax on those benefits, members, if we bring this bill up today, those certain Minnesotans who have pension plans for state and federal employees who are not eligible for Social Security benefits, I will accept that as a friendly amendment. We can get them both done today. If this is a priority, if eliminating the tax on Social Security benefits here in the state of Minnesota is a priority for you, if you want to provide senior citizens this much deserved tax relief, vote yes on this motion.
The secretary will take the roll. Please vote, members. All those having voted that had a desire to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 32 ayes and 34 noes, the motion is not adopted. Remaining under the order of business and resolutions, I'll call on Senator Disick to designate bills for special order.
Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bills to be made special orders for immediate consideration. The special orders list is on your desk, members, and we're going to start with House File 26.
House File 46, Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, House File 26 corresponds to my Senate File 24. Members, this bill is quite simple, very straightforward. It simply allows MnDOT the authority to spend $315.5 million of federal money from the Trunk Highway Fund in fiscal year 2023 for state road construction on the Trunk Highway system. Members, these funds are available, attributable to the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. They're federal funds. And everyone, of course, is familiar with the fact that Minnesota is likely to receive over the next 5 years something on the order of $7.4 billion, fully 3/4 of that going for transportation purposes. Members, these funds have already made it to Minnesota. However, because of our inability or whatever happened last year, we didn't quite finish up the transportation bill. We did not appropriate these dollars, so that's what we're doing now. What MnDOT had done in the meantime to make sure that we actually had some increased level of state road construction, they actually advanced some funds that they did have authority over to pick up the level of construction activity. So this would restore those funds so that for the coming year we can use those funds for trunk highway purposes, and then there's an additional $80 million additional that we'll be able to use in fiscal year 2023 for this purpose. Mr. President, members, I think Senator Jasinski is going to offer an amendment. This is simply an amendment that we're revisiting through some little bit of a paperwork snafu. It didn't make it into the report that's in front of you right now. It's a limitation on the administrative expenses that the Department of Transportation can use, favoring, of course, the vast majority of the funds to be used directly for road construction. MnDOT is very comfortable with the limitation. It actually is probably a little bit more than they would typically use. It's what we call program delivery. It's engineering, the other sort of administrative activities. It was Senator Jasinski's amendment in committee, which I accepted as friendly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. And just so I can self-correct myself, I said 46 instead of House File 26, so I stand corrected. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in support of the bill. This is money that will get to our roads and our bridges, and it's a bill that we did pass last year. It didn't get to the final destination that we wanted it to, but it gets money into our roads and bridges. And I did talk, as Senator Dibble did mention, I did offer an amendment in the Transportation Committee that did not get followed through in the Finance Committee. So with that, Mr. President, I would offer the A2 amendment.
The A2 amendment has been offered by Senator Jasinski. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Jasinski moves to amend House File number 26 as follows. Page 1, line 13, after the period, insert. This is the A2 amendment.
Senator Jasinski, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. So what this does is actually limits the number, the percentage of money that can go towards program delivery. And it's 17%, and to some of you that may seem high, but this does include the design. The overall just administrative costs are usually around 2%. So this money, again, I just wanted to put some guideways on this to make sure the money, the majority of the money went towards our hard construction costs. And this is a fairly typical in our Corps of Commerce program and our state road construction with the 17%. So with that, I would ask for a green vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further discussion on the A2 amendment? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The amendment is adopted. Any further discussions on House File 26 as amended? Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll stand for questions. I also wanted to call members' attention to the letter on your desk signed by a fairly broad coalition of organizations from labor to business to road construction interests in support of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further discussion? The Secretary will give House File 26 as amended its third reading. Third reading.
House File number 26, a bill for an act relating to transportation, appropriating money related to the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act.
Third reading. Any further discussions? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll for final passage of House File 26 as amended. All those having voted that has a desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 65 yeas and 0 noes, the bill is passed and the title agreed to. Senator Disick.
I think it's Murphy. Yeah. No, well, I was just going to say. Yeah.
Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members. I am happy today to present to you Senate File 33, and I'm going to ask for your support. Senate File 33 is a funding bill. It's a simple bill. and it adds necessary funding for the criminal division of the Attorney General's office. I want to confess here at the start that I am one of a number of people in this chamber who, and I'm an alum of the Attorney General's office. I worked there when Attorney General Humphrey was in that office. And so it is both a great honor and a privilege for me to present this bill to you today. The bill that is before us right now is a proposal that Attorney General Ellison has been pursuing for 4 years. This is not a new idea. It was introduced and heard in the House. It hasn't gotten any attention in the Minnesota Senate. And that is why we're acting with some urgency to make sure that we can get this necessary funding to the Attorney General's office yet this fiscal year and into the base funding for the future. When General Ellison took office after the 2018 election and assumed the role in 2019, there was one criminal attorney in the criminal division of the Attorney General's office. Using the resources of that office, he expanded that to 3. So a criminal division of 3 criminal attorneys. When I worked in that office, there were 12. There were 12 criminal attorneys in that division. General Ellison has pursued persistently this funding, and it is because in current law, our 87 county attorneys who have the responsibility of pursuing justice for Minnesotans all across the state. This is a statewide issue. Our 87 county attorneys, if they have a case in their county that for some reason exceeds their capacity, it is the Office of the Attorney General that accepts the delegation of that case. That is the law. It has been the law. Our 87 county attorneys count on the Office of the Attorney General for this purpose, and it is why you have a letter on your desk from Executive Director Small asking us to pass this legislation and to fund this obligation. It is why you have letters from a number of our county attorneys in Greater Minnesota asking for the very same thing, because they know in order to fulfill their obligations in pursuit of justice for Minnesotans across the state, that they need the criminal division well funded in the Attorney General's office. We've had quite a debate in the 3 committees where this bill has been heard. And I appreciate that and respect that, and I imagine that we may again. But when we complete this work today and this bill moves through the process and we achieve our funding, the criminal division in the Attorney General's office will have 10 attorneys and 3 legal assistants to be able to do the important work in pursuing justice in partnership with our county attorneys. And that's why I ask for your support. And Mr. President, President Champion.
Yes.
Thank you, President Champion. I have an amendment for my bill.
What's the amendment?
Thank you, President Champion. The amendment is the A7, and I'd like to explain it to the body.
Senator Murphy offers the A7 amendment. The secretary will will report the amendment.
Senator Murphy moves to amend Senate File 33 as follows. Page 1, line 7, delete A. This is the A7 amendment.
Senator Murphy, to your amendment, the A7 amendment.
Thank you, President Champion and members. As I mentioned, this proposal and the funding within is something General Ellison and the office have been pursuing with the support of county attorneys for 4 years, and we haven't been able to get it across the finish line. That is why we're moving it early. We are moving it ahead of the February forecast. And in our conversations, and I want to thank Senator Marty, Senator Pratt, in our conversations in the Finance Committee, it was clear that the language in the bill before you was going to create some ambiguity for management and budget. And with their consultation and work over the weekend with the Attorney General's office, the amendment that is before you assures that the funding that we're seeking for this fiscal year, 23, and the funding going forward are a part of the base, but do not become the base. And in order to make sure that we are doing our job and not creating any ambiguity for MMB and the forecast to come, this amendment is important. I want to thank our fiscal staff for the tremendous work of putting this together in a way that accomplishes the goal of this proposal ahead of the forecast. And with that, I'd ask for your support and a roll call, please.
Roll call has been requested and a roll call has been granted. Any discussion on the A7 amendment? Senator Pratt to the A7 amendment.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Murphy, for this amendment and clarifying what the intention is. Members, the intention is to bypass the budgeting process and put these funds into the base of the Attorney General's budget. And that's not the way we typically do things, but Senator Murphy, I will support your amendment because it does, in fact, tell Minnesotans exactly what you're trying to do here. I appreciate the clarity. I'm still concerned with other language in the bill, but I do appreciate your clarity, at least on this one piece.
Any further discussion? Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Pratt. I appreciate your support. I do think that it's important that we, within the process ahead of the forecast, that we are very clear about what we're accomplishing. And with that, I'll withdraw the roll call.
The roll call has been withdrawn. All those in favor of the A7 amendment, say aye. All those opposed say no. The A7 amendment has been adopted. Any other discussion on House File 33 as amended? Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Murphy yield for a question?
Senator Murphy, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Murphy, I'm looking at the revised version, the engrossed version of Senate File number 33, and I know it's a little different from the original text of the bill, namely on lines 1.8 and 1.11 and 12. There was a lot of detail in the original bill, and now the recently engrossed version simply says that the use of the funds would be used to enhance criminal enforcement and related initiatives. Could you tell me what related initiatives really means? I asked that question in committee. I really did not get a satisfactory answer, so I thought perhaps you could enlighten us this morning.
Senator Murphy, to the question.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Limmer. This has been some subject of examination as this proposal has moved its way through the process. I want to begin by reminding everybody that what we're doing with this language is inserting it into a process that already exists. In law, there is a process by which county attorneys can request and essentially ask the Attorney General to take up criminal cases that they have deemed outside of their capacity, either because it requires expertise that they don't have, and let me say that 44 of our 87 county attorneys have 3 or fewer attorneys, largely in greater Minnesota. So when a case emerges in a county that exceeds the capacity, not the skill, but the capacity of a county attorney, they turn to the Attorney General's office. That is the relationship. The Attorney General's office does not have original jurisdiction. The language in the bill is the language that has traveled through the legislature for the last 4 years. And from my perspective, for enhanced criminal enforcement and related initiatives is crystal clear. It is direct and clear. And what we are saying is the funding in this proposal, when it becomes law, will support the work of the criminal division of the Attorney General's office. That has been my answer. It's still my answer. It's the right answer. It's a good answer. And that's why I need your support.
Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Murphy, I guess I still am a little slow this morning. I quite don't understand your answer, and it's sorry that I didn't get a little bit more specific reference to what related initiatives really means. I would like to have a more crystal clear definition, and as a result of that inquiry, I'd like to introduce the A12 amendment, Mr. President.
Senator Limmer offers the A12 amendment, and at the appropriate time, the Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Limmer moves to amend Senate File Number 33 as follows. Page 1, line 8, delete everything after general. This is the A12 amendment.
Senator Limmer to the A12 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Murphy and rest of the members of the Senate, the language in the A12 amendment is exactly the language of the original Senate File 33. See, I kind of come from an old school that believes that anytime we spend the taxpayer money, we should be very specific to how that money will be spent on behalf of our taxpayers. This language recognizes the Attorney General's need for added funds to provide needed legal services to prosecute violent crimes and crimes that financially harm consumers and businesses. That's broad in and of itself. Crimes usually are categorized by personal crimes and property or economic crimes. That recognizes the reference of criminal activity. And it's used, the original language of the Attorney General was, in his recommendation in the full bill, to hire 7 full-time equivalent attorneys and 2 full-time equivalent legal assistants. And that's used to enable the attorney's office to, 1, aid in the enforcement of the criminal laws of the state, which is, by the way, a pretty broad statement in and of itself, 2, to respond to the unmet needs of counties, and 3, to provide necessary assistance with county prosecution of serious offenders. So as we look at the A12 amendment, and Senator Murphy, I like Senate File Number 33 in its original context, but making a broad reference, an unanswered reference to what the heck related initiatives really means, I think it's best for our taxpayers to know how their money's being spent. And if A12 truly represents the needs of the AG's office, as he sponsored this bill, why don't we use the language that he uses? Therefore, Mr. President, I introduce A12 and ask for a roll call vote.
Roll call has been requested. A roll call has been granted. Senator Murphy to the A12 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Limmer and members. I'm going to ask the members to vote no on Senator Limmer's amendment. And I appreciate you bringing it forward. We've had this discussion before. I imagine if every time we were skeptical about something and we added a lot more words, we'd have statute books that would cross the back of this room. Is why I keep talking about the fact that we are adding funding to law that already exists. But, Senator Limmer, so we are all more clear together. Here are some of the things that the AGO, the Attorney General's office, will handle.
And Senator Murphy, is this to the A12 amendment?
Of course it is. It is. Federal habeas corpus petitions, appeals from post-conviction petitions, plea withdrawal appeals, pre-trial appeals, sentencing appeals, probation violation appeals. Now, I worked in the AG's office, but I'm not a lawyer. Here's a pretty good list. I appreciate your desire for more specificity, but I believe it is important for us to be clear and clean, and that's what I have done in the bill, and that's why I'm going to ask people to vote against the Limmer Amendment and support this proposal to get necessary funding for justice to the Attorney General's office.
Senator Pratt, to the A12 amendment.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Murphy, for bringing this proposal forward. As you know, many of us made public safety an important part of our campaigns last fall. If I could just ask you, Senator Murphy, I'm looking at the language in the bill in front of us. Can you show me specifically where these appropriations would be designated to the criminal division? Or, I'm sorry, Mr. President, would Senator Murphy yield for a question?
Senator Murphy, will you yield for a question? She will. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Murphy, can you show me where in your language it designates that these funds will be spent in the criminal division of the AG's office?
Senator Murphy, to the question.
President Champion and Senator Pratt, the money is to be used for enhanced criminal enforcement.
Senator Pratt.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. That's a very broad statement. There's a lot of criminal enforcement that can be done, not specifically to the criminal division, especially when it's followed by and related initiatives. Would Senator Limmer yield for a question?
Senator Limmer, will you yield? He will yield. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Senator Limmer. In your amendment, can you show me where the monies would be appropriated specifically to the criminal division?
Senator Limmer, to the question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could you ask Senator to ask that question again?
Senator Pratt, Senator Limmer would like for you to repeat the question again so he can properly answer. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Limmer, we just heard Senator Murphy say that these monies would be going to the criminal division, but was unable to specifically show us where those appropriations were being designated. In your bill, can you at least highlight, or I'm sorry, in your amendment, can you please highlight how we have some certainty that those funds will be going to the criminal division?
Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the amendment of the A12 amendment that we're considering right now, this is a very specific reference as it was written in the original bill. The money would be used to provide needed legal service as you begin on line 1.6 and 7, provide needed legal service to prosecute violent crimes and crimes that financially harm consumers and businesses. It explains how that would be used in the foregoing language, starting after the period on line 1.8. The Attorney General, in his original bill that he sponsored, recommended to hire 7 full-time equivalent lawyers and 2 full-time equivalent legal assistants to help the Attorney General's office in aiding in the enforcement of criminal laws in the state. And the purpose was to respond to the needs of counties and provide necessary assistance to county prosecutors. That's what it says. It's rather quite simple, Senator.
Senator Pratt.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I think we have the answer. The Limmer Amendment does what the author of the bill says the bill should do, and that is provide support to our local county attorneys to help them prosecute and keep criminals off the street. And as she said, it will help statewide, but it will have a huge effect in greater Minnesota where many of our county attorneys' offices are much, much smaller. When I see language that says enhanced criminal enforcement and other related items, initiatives, to me that says this is a blanket appropriation that can be used for almost any purpose the Attorney General decides to do. Folks, the Attorney General is here to enforce the laws of Minnesota. Many of our laws are criminal. We've seen the Attorney General spend more time prosecuting business owners who violated an executive order than he has rioters that ruin the streets of Minneapolis. And when we ask the Attorney General specifically how many times he's had to decline a county request, he was unable to answer that. So if the Attorney General and if the author of the bill intend for this to be used to support our county attorneys, and specifically in the criminal division of the Attorney General's office, then, Mr. President, the bill ought to say that, and I encourage all members to support the Limmer Amendment.
Any further discussion on the Limmer Amendment? There was a roll call requested and a roll call granted. Senator Limmer being the author of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. In listening to the question, I failed to answer a little bit more of the question that I was asked. When you look at the 812 amendment, we're recognizing the need of county prosecutors. We've been told in testimony by the chief author that especially small and rural counties need that special assistance from the Attorney General's office to specifically address the rising violent crime throughout the state. When you compare the amendment to the revised or the engrossed bill before us, it does not give direction to the county attorney to meet the unneeded needs of counties and provide necessary assistance with county prosecution. It doesn't address the need of the counties in the Senate File 33 final engrossed version in front of us. Makes no reference to counties. Quite honestly, I think it should. If that's truly where the money should go, it should go to those counties, and it's being recognized in the 812 amendment for us. So, Mr. President, I think our laws should be specific. I think the use of our money should be specific. And I think that Senate File 33, as it's written in front of us, still leaves a very large undefined purpose for that money. All I'm trying to do in the 812 amendment is put that original purpose that the AG's office recognized from the very beginning and put it into law. Thank you.
The secretary will take the roll. Members, I'm trying to make sure that I give the author the last word, but I'm going to recognize Senator Anderson and then go back to Senator Limmer as the last word. So please, can you make sure that you try to get on the list before I go to the author of the amendment? Because remember, I announced that. I wanted to make sure that the author of the amendment has the last word. So he did speak, but we will let you speak and then we'll go back to him. But that will be the continued practice, not to go in back of the author of the amendment. Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I support Senator Limmer's amendment that he brought forward. Members, you have on your desk that came from Senator Murphy a list of different attorneys from across the state that are asking us to support this bill, but it's to support the bill as it was originally written. And it talks about this, saying that, as you know, the Attorney General's Criminal Division plays a critical role in helping county attorneys across the state in difficult cases, but that's not what the bill, as it was now on our desk, says. It talks about initiatives. It talks about criminal enforcement, but it doesn't specifically address what the County Attorneys Association Executive Director Small says. And in Cottonwood County, it says here, please support Attorney General's full request means increased support for county attorneys in small offices. And that's the way the bill was originally written. And so, Mr. President, I would encourage members to support Senator Limmer's amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
So Senator Pratt, even though, okay, this is the last time, okay?
Mr. President, I don't have any additional comments. I'd just like to impose a call of the Senate.
Call of the Senate. The Senate is under call. Senator Pratt, do you want this just for this amendment or for the balance of the bill?
For the amendment, Mr. President.
For the amendment. Thank you so much. They asked for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Mr. President, I move further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with, and Sergeant at Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
On that motion, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Now we are here for the A7, excuse me, the A12 amendment. The Secretary would take the roll. Members, please vote. The Secretary will close the roll. There being 33 ayes and 34 noes, the amendment is not adopted. Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support the intent of this bill. I want a well-funded criminal division in the Attorney General's office. I want to make sure we have the resources to prosecute violent crimes. And I want to make sure that we're able to respond to the unmet needs of the county attorneys out there and provide the assistance that's needed. I support the intent of this bill. My concern is about the broad language in the first engrossment and whether the money is actually going to go to its intended purposes. And I understand we just rejected the A12 amendment that added a lot of words, and Senator Murphy mentioned that she wants clear and clean language in the amendment. And so with that, I offer the A11 amendment.
The A11 amendment has been offered, and the Secretary at the appropriate time will report the amendment.
And I request a roll call too, please.
Roll call has been requested, and the roll call has been granted.
Senator Kroon moves to amend Senate File Number 33 as follows. Page 1, Line 8, delete enforcement and related initiatives. This is the A11 amendment.
Senator Kroon, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. The A11 amendment seeks to focus this bill on its intended purpose without using any unnecessary or additional language to do that. It deletes the broad language, enhanced criminal enforcement and related initiatives, and replaces that with enhanced criminal prosecution under Minnesota statutes section 8.01. Senator Murphy mentioned the existing process that's in place for county attorneys to request this assistance from the Attorney General's office. That process is set forth in section 8.01. So really all this amendment does is reference the section, that process that the author of this bill tells us this money is going to go towards, which is to help those county attorneys, give them the resources they need, and to give the funding to the Attorney General's office to provide that assistance when the county attorneys request it. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Senator Murphy to the A11 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, members. I'm going to ask you to vote no. I understand your intention, Senator. I think that your amendment seeks to accomplish the same thing as the language in the bill. The language in the bill does what we intend it to do, especially when you consider what the law already says. So I'd ask for a no vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Senator Limmer, then I'll go to Senator Pratt. Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Murphy yield?
Senator Murphy, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a lot of new people in membership right now in the Senate, and quite honestly, they might want to know what Section 8 or Chapter 8 is. That's the area of state statute that defines the authority and the duties of the Attorney General. During the committee, when we had this line of questioning, he continually said he was limited to Chapter 8.0. And so it kind of bewilders me that there would be opposition to Senator Cruan's amendment when all he's asking for is a little clarity referring to this new authority with these funds, that they would be used to enhance the Attorney General's authority and duty under the auspices of state statute. I can only assume now, if that's not defined, Senator Murphy, I can't help but ask the question, what else will be used? How far beyond the authority of Chapter 8 is this money going to be used for if you refuse to define it under the existing authority of the Attorney General? And I would ask Senator Murphy to yield to that question.
Senator Murphy, will you yield? Senator Murphy will yield. Senator Murphy. Did you hear the question, Senator Murphy?
Thank you, Senator Champion. I would be grateful if Senator Limmer would ask the question.
Senator Limmer, if you re-ask the question.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd love to reemphasize my concern and that it could be addressed by Senator Curran's amendment before us. Senator Murphy, you may know, since you've worked in the Attorney General's office, that Chapter 8.0 defines the duties and authority of the Attorney General in this state. The way the laws, or the way that your proposal is written in the engrossed copy of Senate File 33, there is a concern by some, including myself, that related initiatives could mean something beyond that authority. In testimony, the Attorney General kept reminding us he can only work within that authority of Chapter 8. But it's not referenced in your bill. Senator Cruan is simply asking to make reference to that authority, Chapter 8, 8.0. So I can only, your opposition to this, your opposition to the previous amendment gives me pause And I have to ask the question, is there another intent in your bill to give money to the Attorney General for an expanded use of that funds beyond Chapter 8? All Senator Cruin's doing is referring to existing law. So can you tell me, why would you be opposed to referencing existing law and existing authority of the Attorney General?
Senator Murphy, to the question.
Thank you, President Champion, and thank you, Senator Limmer. I want to acknowledge again for the body the profound skepticism that I've experienced in carrying this funding proposal for the Attorney General's office for the purpose of supporting the criminal division and our 87 county attorneys. As I have mentioned, we've had a fairly robust discussion, and here we are again. From statute 8.01, upon the request of the county attorney, the Attorney General shall appear in court in such criminal cases as the Attorney General deems proper. Upon the request of a county attorney, the Attorney General may assume the duties of the county attorney in criminal, psychopathic personality, and sexually dangerous person commitment proceedings as well. As I mentioned in my opening statement, the Attorney General's office does not have original jurisdiction. The Attorney General can take up these cases when delegated from county attorneys. That's the law. That is the law. And that is what this proposal funds. I appreciate the skepticism. I know it is about the language and not about my work. I know it is about the language of the bill. But from my perspective, and why I'm asking people to vote no on this amendment, is because this funding proposal supports what is already in law. The Attorney General does not have original jurisdiction. He takes up work, that office takes up work when it's delegated from our 87 county attorneys. And to an earlier comment about the county attorneys and the support, Executive Director Small testified in committee to the language that is before us, asking the legislature to support this funding. And as I have had to do in other hearings, I will share with you what he said. The Attorney General's office has helped our greater Minnesota county attorneys in homicide cases, but due to the lack of criminal division staff, has not been able to accept requests for assistance in other cases involving violent crime, white-collar crime, financial exploitation, federal habeas corpus petitions, and other multi-county prosecutions of drug or human trafficking. I'll remind you that human trafficking was the subject of a great deal of debate just in this chamber on Friday. The budget request will address the issue of capacity and inadequate criminal division resources for the Attorney General to adequately respond to county attorneys' requests in these difficult cases. Let's pass this bill and get those resources in place to support our county attorneys. Please vote no on this amendment.
Senator Limmer, Senator Pratt, before Senator Limmer. Oh, you had the floor, I'm sorry. Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Murphy, I believe you were referencing Chapter 8.0 in your last description of the job description of the Attorney General, and again, it continues to bewilder me why we don't recognize it in your bill according to chapter number. With an $18 billion surplus, there is reason for profound skepticism for undefined appropriations, Senator Murphy. It's vitally important that our taxpayers know where money goes. This body rejected the previous amendment when we tried to define the purpose of that new money, and now Senator Cruin's amendment is simply trying to make a cross-reference to the Attorney General's duties and responsibilities according to state statute, Chapter 8.0. So let me repeat. With an $18 billion surplus, there is reason for profound skepticism of any undefined appropriation. And that's what we're trying to do on behalf of our hardworking taxpayers.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, as usual, my esteemed colleague, Senator Limmer, has taken a lot of my thunder, but as we often say, it's not what's been said, but whether or not everybody's had a chance to say it. Mr. President, we know the words in statute matter. Senator Murphy claimed earlier the intent of this legislation is crystal clear. And what Senator Limmer and now Senator Cruin are showing is that that language is not crystal clear. Senator Murphy and the Attorney General have on numerous occasions outlined the fact that they are limited in their abilities by statute 8.01. And Senator Murphy, I appreciate that you were kind enough to read what those limitations were, because they're very important. But what we also know is that the Attorney General does in fact have jurisdiction in other areas. And when you see words like other related initiatives, members, that opens the whole thing up. That is a blanket appropriation. That could be used for almost anything, including the Attorney General pursuing cases maybe of a more national interest than of local, state interest. We are spending Minnesotans' hard-working tax dollars to stop crime, to get criminals off the streets. And members, that's not a Republican or a Democrat issue. That's all our issue. So for Senator Cruin to offer an amendment that says we'll allocate the money pursuant to the very statute that you've used as justification for these additional funds is more than just appropriate. It's downright necessary. We have no guarantees that once this money is given to the Attorney General with language like "and other initiatives," that they'll be used for the intent that's been described here. Members, that's our job. Our job is to appropriate funding for state agencies and constitutional offices. It is our job to make sure that when we appropriate monies that hardworking Minnesotans have sent in to the tax department, that they're spent in the way that we say they're going to be spent. So we tried to define it as the author originally defined it, and that didn't pass. Senator Murphy has said, well, we're constrained by existing law. But in her language, there is no constraint. There is no reference to existing law that would put those constraints in there. And I continue to be befuddled, for lack of a better term, that we are unwilling, the author is unwilling to reference the very existing statute that she uses as justification for this money. The very existing statute that would provide the limitations and the requirements of the Attorney General on how to spend these additional funds. Because members, the initial amendment put these funds into the Attorney General's base budget for next biennium. The A7 amendment that we adopted put these funds into the Attorney General's base budget with no limitation, with no guidance, with no subline that would show how specifically these funds are being spent. They just go into the pool. We have a process for debating whether the Attorney General has an appropriate budget or not. But when we're told that this is specifically for public safety, when we're told this is specifically for criminal prosecution, when we're told this is specifically to help our local county attorneys, and at every turn we try to put those guardrails in, we try to put those limitations in, we try to make the bill say what the author says it is intended to do, we were voted down. I'm asking my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to think about this, to think about the purpose of why we have these funds being allocated, to think about the justification that Attorney General Ellison and the chief author have said, and look at the language in front of you. And does it in fact meet the high bar that they've described? Senator Kroon's amendment ensures that will happen. It ensures it will follow existing state statute. So I'm asking all members to please look at this very reasonable amendment to make sure that we are being good stewards of the tax monies hardworking Minnesota families have sent us, and vote yes.
Senator Westland, before we go back to the author of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today as a member of the Judiciary Committee, and we had a robust conversation about this bill. And I guess I'm a little perplexed because of the statute 8.01 already defines the scope of authority for the Attorney General, and if the Attorney General does not have original jurisdiction over items, I'm a little unclear as to why that needs to be added to the bill being proposed by Senator Murphy. I also want to say that the Attorney General testified and confirmed that one of the requirements of his office is that he provide a report, a detailed report of the spending of his office, what it went to, prosecutions, et cetera, under 8.08. So there is an accountability function to this that is already in statute. It does not need to be in this bill. So I would ask members to vote against the amendment. It's unnecessary, and we simply need to move on and pass this bill.
Before I go to the author of the amendment, anyone before the author of the amendment, because that would be the last one to speak on the amendment before we vote. Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt mentioned many of the things I was going to say, so I appreciate that. What I will add is, again, it's the broad language of and related initiatives. And I would like to note that the section of law that I've identified in Amendment 11, Section 8.01, is not the sole authority, the sole duties of the Attorney General's office. There are other things that the Attorney General can do under statute, and I would direct members to Section 8.31 as a laundry list of other things the Attorney General may do. And so when you add those laundry lists of other things that the Attorney General can do with the broad language of related initiatives, I don't think that this amendment is unnecessary. I think this amendment focuses the Attorney General to spend the money on the very things that the Attorney General says they're going to spend the money, and the chief author of this bill says the Attorney General should spend the money on. And that's what I support. I don't support the Attorney General using this money on related initiatives outside of Section 8.01. So I would argue, Mr. President, that this amendment is not unnecessary. It's very necessary to focus the Attorney General on the process set forth in Section 8.01 to provide resources at the request of the county attorneys. Thank you. And I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
A roll call has been requested and a roll call has been granted. The secretary will take the roll. Members, please vote. Members, please vote. The secretary will close the roll. There being 33 ayes and 34 noes, the amendment is not adopted. Senator Draheim.
Thank you, President. Members, I have the A10 amendment.
Senator Draheim offers the A10 amendment. At the appropriate time, the secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Draheim moves to amend Senate File Number 33 as follows. Page 1 before line 5, insert. This is the A10 amendment.
Senator Draheim, to your amendment.
Thank you, President Champion and members. We just heard from one of our colleagues about a detailed report that the Attorney General's office is supposed to produce for us today. But oddly enough, in committee, with a staff of around 350, they do not track how many requests they get from county attorneys. Many of us represent multiple counties. Myself, I have parts of 7 counties, and I know there is a need for more help in our rural counties. And I was just shocked that the Attorney General did not track requests from counties. So this is just a simple little amendment to have the Attorney General with 350 some employees be able to keep track of requests from counties. I figure if a small state agency like broadband with just a couple employees, I think last time I talked to them they had 3 employees, and they track requests from all over the state. So if an agency with 3 employees can track requests, I hope the Attorney General's office could do so. Thank you.
Senator Friends.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I will ask you again to vote no on this amendment. There is already required in law annual reporting from the Attorney General's office on a variety of things. And so this, again, if we're not looking at current law, but thinking about a blank piece of paper, and we're not because we are operating within current law, we know that the current statute already includes a report. And thank you, Senator Latz. In law, currently 808, 8.08 report. Please check the statute. The Attorney General shall report to the Governor biennially on or before October 1st of each even-numbered year, the number, character, and result of all actions and proceedings in which the Attorney General has appeared for the state, the expense incurred by the state in each, and the amount of fines, penalties, and other money collected. Also, the opinions of general interest given by the Attorney General's office since the preceding report with such recommendations for amendment of the laws as the Attorney General may deem necessary or proper, and tables shall be appended showing the offenses reported to the Attorney General by county attorneys. It's in the law. Please vote no.
Any additional questions? Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. On that note, I believe that was Senator Murphy speaking. Would she yield for a question?
Senator Murphy, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Murphy. Could you read the beginning of your sentence again? I believe that what you were reading said the report goes to the governor. Could you confirm that?
Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Senator Lucero, take a look at the statutes. This report does go to the governor. There are others that come to the legislature as well. As you know, we are a body that often requests a lot of information from people. There are reports already required under law for the Attorney General's office. The amendment before us is redundant. And if what we want to do with these funds is to make sure that we are supporting our county attorneys in pursuit of justice for Minnesotans, this ain't it. Please vote no.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Murphy yield for another question?
Senator Murphy, will you continue to yield? She will. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I believe I heard the answer, but she said a lot of things there in my last request to yield that I didn't quite get it. Would the senator confirm that the previous section that she had read directs the report to go to the governor?
Senator Murphy.
Senator Champion, Senator Lucero, yes.
Senator Lucero.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Murphy. The fact that what she said, so she read a passage of existing statute, and she concluded the remarks by saying, the amendment before us is redundant. The fact that Senator Murphy just answered yes, that report goes to the governor, is clear demonstration that the amendment before us is not redundant. Because the amendment before us sends the report to the legislative committees having jurisdiction over state government and criminal law. Members, Constitution 101. The executive branch is not the legislative branch. The legislative branch is not the executive branch. So to have an argument and then conclude that this amendment is just redundant is a defiance of the basics. Members, we as a legislative branch are the body that holds the purse strings. We are the body that forms policy. We are the body that is responsible to the people. And members, when we are making these policy and spending decisions, the agencies of government, in this case the constitutional office of Attorney General, needs to be responsible to us. And it is very, very legitimate, and it should be the expectation that any reports that would add transparency and accountability would come to us, not be filtered by way of the executive branch. And therefore, Mr. President and members, we absolutely need to support the Draheim Amendment, again, so that we can have oversight directly as our constitutional role is, and not have reports be filtered by the executive branch. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Murphy yield for a question?
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I was asking a question.
I asked if Senator Murphy would be willing to yield for a question.
She will yield. Senator Pratt.
Thank you. Senator Murphy, can you tell me where that report that you mentioned is? I've been looking on the Attorney General's website for some sort of distribution of that, and I just can't find it. I see press releases leading up to October 1st, but I see no report to the governor that would have been made public. And I'm hoping that you have access to that link so I can at least take a look at it to make sure that the information that Senator Draheim is requesting is in that report.
Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Thank you, Senator Pratt. You can find the report in the legislative library, and while I'm saying so, we have an incredible legislative library in Minnesota. That's where you can find that report. You can also refer to statute and understand another report comes to the legislature, 8.15. I will let you review the statute on your own. I'm not going to keep reading to you what's in current law. But to my earlier point, this amendment, the Draheim Amendment, is redundant. Please vote no. Let's get this funding to the Attorney General's office.
Senator Pratt.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for that answer, Senator Murphy, and I'll go to the law office, but let me just take a moment to reflect here. We were in committee and we asked the Attorney General how many times he had to say no to local county attorneys. He told us that he took on 44 cases and helped them out. That's all well and good. How many were you unable to help? He couldn't answer that. He gave us an answer about, well, we said no, so they went and they found other resources and they were able to work with other counties in order to get the resources they needed. But he never was able to tell us how many times he had to say no. We tried to target these monies specifically in language to what the Attorney General told us he wanted to use them for. That amendment was defeated. We then said, okay, well, you've said that you're going to be limited to 8.01. Let's at least have this bill refer back to 8.01 so that we know that they're being used for the purposes that they are described. That amendment was defeated. And when we asked the Attorney General how many times he's had to say no to the very request that he's trying to fulfill, he couldn't answer it. And had he been reporting that to the governor or in any other report, I would think the Attorney General, between state gov, judiciary, and finance, would have found that answer. He did not. So to say this is going to slow down the process of helping county attorneys prosecute crimes, members, that's a smokescreen. That's a red herring. We should at least know that the funds that we're appropriating today are going for the purpose that they're intended to, and the Attorney General should be able to report that need in some way, form, or fashion to the legislature who helps set his budget. The governor doesn't set the budget. The governor may recommend, but we set the budget. And so it's imperative that that information come to the members of the legislature tasked with overseeing that very important function. So to include detail on when these requests are being denied is extremely reasonable. I would say I'm surprised the Attorney General, we were all surprised the Attorney General couldn't answer that question for the very purpose that he was coming to the legislature asking for additional resources. We thought he would be able to better explain the need. What you're hearing are very emotional arguments to say we have to provide public safety money. And again, members, no one is saying we shouldn't be supporting our law enforcement and our county attorneys, and we all want to see criminals being prosecuted and held accountable for their crimes. We all want that. That's not in debate. What's in debate is to make sure that we are doing it in such a way that we are not only holding the Attorney General accountable to what he says he needs, but also that he be able to explain it to the legislature, be able to document it to the legislature. Members, this is such a basic amendment. I don't know how anybody could vote against it. So members, I encourage a yes vote on the Draheim Amendment.
Senator Nelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. This amendment is an incredibly important amendment. First, let me just provide some clarity about the discussions we've been having. 8.08 does not require the Attorney General to make report of all of those counties who asked for assistance. It only requires that he state those counties to which assistance was delivered. Now, this amendment is really important to outstate Minnesota. There is nothing currently that would prevent, we don't know, where is the assistance going? Is it just in the metro area? What about the rest of the state? I imagine every outstate legislator in this chamber would like to know. Are there counties being served? We know, I talked to my county attorneys, there are huge backlogs. We are seeing increased crime across our state. More and more of our counties have been designated as high trafficking, high incidence trafficking drug areas. And yes, our county attorneys need help in order to prosecute the crimes and the drug trafficking that is wreaking havoc across our land. They need that, and the victims need that as well. So members, the Draheim Amendment is a very common sense amendment that will provide perhaps rationale for why that additional funding is needed. In fact, I believe the author of this bill had originally asked for this funding to continue on in the base of the budget. If that's the case, we need to know why. We need to know where the assistance is going. We need to know how many counties asked for assistance and did not get it. Members, this is important to Minnesota victims and Minnesota counties, our attorneys, and the ability for a criminal prosecution in a speedy manner. I encourage a yes vote on the A10 amendment.
Senator Murphy, before going to Senator Kroon. Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Again, what is before us is a funding request to fulfill the requirements of the Attorney General's office already set in law and in statute. I did share with you, I read to you, the reporting requirement under 8.08 and made reference to the reporting requirement under 8.15, and would call your attention to subdivision 4 titled Reports. The Attorney General shall prepare an annual expenditure report describing actual expenditures for each agency or political subdivision receiving legal services. The report shall describe 1, estimated and actual expenditures, including expenditures authorized through agreements, 2, the type of services provided, 3, the major, current, and future legal issues. The report shall be submitted to the chairs of the Senate Finance Committee and the House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee by October 15th of each year. There are reports.
Senator
There are reports. Thank you.
Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't think anybody's debating that there are a lot of reports required by the Attorney General's office. What this Draheim Amendment does is a specific report for a specific purpose to track those cases where county attorneys have requested help and were denied. I don't believe Section 8.08 requires that specific kind of tracking. It requires the Attorney General's office to report to the governor where they have appeared for a county attorney, but not necessarily where they've been requested to appear but did not appear. And that is bolstered by the fact that Attorney General Ellison in the Judiciary Committee, not only was he not able to answer that question, he specifically said that his office does not track that information. So if it is required by statute, his office isn't following the law. In any event, what the Draheim Amendment does, it goes further than anything that may or may not be required in Section 808 and requires the Attorney General's office to report to the legislature those specific instances where help was requested and denied, and it includes more detail and specificity than anything required in current statute. So I would support the Draheim amendment and encourage members to vote yes. Thank you.
All right, so the last person going to be Senator Draheim. Before we vote, a roll call has been requested and a roll call has been granted. Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make this short, members. All we're asking for is a tally of how many requests from our counties to the Attorney General's office with a little detail. Not complicated. Excel spreadsheet would probably work. This is just good governance. It's not a gotcha bill. It's not a political statement. It's just information so we can do our job. I urge a green vote. Thank you.
The Secretary will take the roll. Members, please vote. This is on the Draheim Amendment, the A10 Amendment. The Secretary will close the roll. There being 33 ayes and 34 noes, the amendment is not adopted. Senator Dziedzic.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we have a lot of work to do in committees this afternoon, so in a minute here I'm going to lay the bill on the table. We'll get some committee work done, and then we'll be back this afternoon and call the President right after committees. So, Mr. President, I move to lay Senate File 33 on the table and ask for a roll call vote.
And that motion is not debatable. A roll call has been requested and a roll call granted. The Secretary will take the roll on the motion to lay the bill on the table. All those having voted that desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There have been 36 ayes and 30 noes. The motion to lay the bill on the table prevails. Senator Dziedzic.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to recess until the call of the President.
Motion to recess until the call of the President. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Senate is now in recess.